Here are a couple ideas for ways that you can manage and insert multiple Engage interactions as Flash objects. So in a previous example, we walked through the process of just inserting a single Engage file and the changes that we'd have to make and the ways we'd copy the folder files over to the published folder. They sort of change if you're going to work with multiple Engage files. So in this example, right, the Christian Aid example, we worked with multiple files. We had a different icon on the bottom of each slide. Each one had a hyperlink that would go to a different slide, and then obviously inserting a different Engage interaction as a Swift object on each of those files. So, right, so let me just review real quick. So when you publish any presenter course, this is pretty much what you see, right? The three files, the player, data, and the player. If I open up the data and then open up the Swift, anytime we insert a movie, a Flash movie object, an SWF file, this is the naming convention that presenter is going to use when it publishes out that file, the FM underscore. Well, the trick was, right, to take Engage, publish Engage, and then make any changes to that file by renaming it with that FM underscore. So in a previous example, right, we had Skype, we called it using Skype, we published it, takes the first name and the name of the interaction title, but then does add this little Engage output. But what we wanted to do for each of those was open it up and then just add that FM underscore, right? So when we did that, we're able to copy this into the published folder for the full course and then get this file to work, right? Because Engage needs this folder, this content folder and all those assets to actually run. It has to be in the same path. Well, inserting as a single object works, right? We can leave it named Engage as long as we keep these two consistent and copy them over. We'd copy them over to the published version, right? We just drop them in over here. If you're going to work with multiple files, and I think this is where some users might be getting a little tripped up, they didn't know where to add all the different versions, Engage Content 1, Engage Content 2. So I want to show you some best practices that came out of our process, and as well as something that Tom even came up with that made really managing this little creative workaround for Engage and Presenter really great in terms of not having to put a lot of extra time in copying files and hunting them down. So there's kind of three things going on here. First, we kept all the interactions together in the same folder, okay? It's not too groundbreaking, but it's helpful. The second is we published each of these to the same folder. So in this case, right, my Skype, click Publish. I'm always publishing, not to the default My Documents, Articulate Projects. I'm actually publishing to this working production folder. Now, the third thing that made our lives even easier was creating this third folder, this final folder called Published, right? So in our previous example, we went into Skype, we made some changes, and then what we would do is copy them into the published folder. Now, the only problem with that, right, is if I make FM underscore changes to each of these, they're all going to be named the same. So what we ended up doing was renaming them to whatever their file name was. So in this case, right, we have a WebEx interaction, right? So it was a section on using WebEx. So what we did for WebEx, after we publish it each time, right, every time Engage publishes, this is the folder we get. We would call it FM underscore WebEx, FM underscore WebEx underscore content, right? So this is the part that we would change each time, just the part that was named Engage. So rather than putting different version numbers and trying to extend this where things were not being consistently named, we're just working off of the Engage file and then working to the left and making those changes there, obviously always proceeding with the FM. Once we had those published and then renamed for each of these, right? FM email content, then we'd copy them over here to the published folder. Now the benefit here is it made copying these over to our full course production infinitely easier. So a lot of times we'd republish our course, but we didn't make changes to the Engage files every day. So if I republish my presenter course 10 times a day, this whole folder gets refreshed. If I don't have these in a separate folder, what am I doing? I'm having to open up each of these folders, copying these two over, coming back up here, and then copying them and so on. So if you're not making all these changes to Engage every day, once you sort of have your Engage files locked down, consider taking all those published versions, each with its own unique name, and then just dropping them into a single folder, publish your course, 10 times a day or every time you make a change, and then just selecting all of these, and then dragging them over, and then replacing whatever's in there. Now, if you didn't make any changes, you could probably still leave the Swift file alone and just copy the content folder. I never like to take that chance, so I was just copy and replace. And now each of these files within this published course will work, right? So the phone, and so on. So a couple ideas for working with multiple Engage files within a single presentation.